evening.
How many of you here loves a bicycle, or do you ride a bicycle here? Also, you've got loads and loads of them. Got loads of appreciators, people who love bicycles. And how many of you here are working or is working in a shipping or freight agency company? Does shipping? Okay. So this is a bicycle, but not just a bicycle. Right. It's a Dutch bicycle. It's a Van Move Electric S bicycle, and it's very expensive. I mean, it costs from about $2,500 up. The reason why it's that costly is because you've got the engine there and the battery in there. So it lets you to pedal a lot faster, got a lot of high-tech GPS that monitors a lot of other things. So it's kind of like high-tech, cool bicycle. But when Van Move made this bicycle, by the way, they're a Dutch-based company, they had to ship to North America, and they found out that a lot of their bicycles get returned back defective, damaged. That's because you all love bicycles, but apparently the people that are working in the shipping industry don't pay that much respect, don't have a lot of respect for bicycles. Apparently, it's just a bicycle. And how do we pack bicycles? You turn it this way, put it in a park, like a big box, gigantic box. And what they do is just carry the box, because it's just bicycle, and then just throw it onto the deck of the ship or whatever means that they're using to transfer it. And because of that, when it gets to their destination, the boxes are damaged, the bicycle is damaged, and they have to return it back. So this caused a lot of problem for Van Move. Business, customers are returning it, they have to carry refunds and all this stuff. And then comes the highlight, when the executives met to say, how can we actually stop this from happening? Because it's costing us a lot. Then the executive director, one of them just said, who exactly in the world of shipping or makes a product and they ship over the Atlantic and it arrives at a destination safely without any issues? That's where the light bulb moment came. The TV industry. So the LCD, big screen, put in the same large box, and then they ship it because it's LCD. The shippers pay a lot of respect. Oh, this is a gigantic LCD screen, and it costs so much. We don't want it to break. It's fragile. So they carry it with care, treat it with care, and then ship it, and then it gets to the destination safe and sound. And that's exactly what they did. They just printed a gigantic LCD screen on the box, and the bicycle is still there. So still your Van Move Electric S. But now what happened was that they now started to see defects and damages reduced by up to 75%. And that's exactly what creativity is all about. That ideation moment where you come up with things that not every other person will think of. That's what creativity is all about. And in the same vein, that idea has actually caused a lot of people to be a lot more creative. That this 14-year-old boy was actually looking to make a ship out of the same packaging. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight, which is creatively moving your ideas to innovation using design thinking. I'm going to be picking on two of the thinking methods that Deborah talked about earlier, which is the design thinking and the lean thinking. Now, Einstein says that we cannot continue to solve our problems using the same method that we used to create them. And that's because you find yourself in a closed loop where you keep going back and forth and you're not able to get out. You're not able to get to that point where you can creatively solve a problem. You're doing the same thing all over and all over again. And what is it? What did he call it? If you keep doing the same thing the same way and you expect different results. That's exactly what it is. You can't get anything better. So we need to start to look at problems that we're trying to solve from a different perspective by discarding the obvious. What exactly is the use of this microphone? To amplify my voice. But when I start to use it for something else, then that's where creativity starts to come. And what that does is that it looks into a lot of things and says, we can use this for this, we can use this to solve this, and that's what Van Moof did to say, let's look at what the TV industry is doing and use it to actually solve our customer's problem. So, how many of us can tell me the relationship between these two objects? If you actually can, that means you're a lot older than myself. So, we all know exactly what it is. So that's what creativity is all about. Someone says, okay, how can I rewind a cassette when I don't have a tape player, or when the tape player is faulty? Oh, I can make use of a biro, a pen, or something. It does the job. I don't have to wait to build another tape player or go to a page. I can quickly get something done now, and then, while that is in the pipeline. And this? Can we correlate those two objects? So if you've lost the pin, the original pin that came with your Apple product, just come up with something. And this guy is trying to travel across River Thames. But he's not got the money for the boat or how to build a boat. So just being creative in there. You want to play basketball in your backyard? Or you've got some wrist issues at work. So this is all about creativity, and that's going to come into play when you're using your design thinking approach to uncover problems and look for best solution. It's about thinking outside the box. No one says it's one route to an answer. There are multiple ways to solve a problem. It's just looking out for what's the best and what will deliver value to your customer. The only way by which you can get into that mode is by being like this. Two wonderful beings. If you can start to get yourself in the childlike mindset and become like a tabula rasa, where your mind is open, not preconceived with anything, then you can start to open up your brain into different ideas and look at things. That's when you look at any object and then you can start to look, okay, fine, what can I do with these? When Paddy dropped the pencils on our tables, someone said it's for you to use it for choking people when they are doing whatever they're not supposed to be doing. That's something. So you need to get into that childlike state, open-mindedness, the playfulness. That's when you can start to find yourself being creative. And then all of these things start to come up, where you combine, adapt, modify, steal ideas like Van Moof. And you can see what the medical practitioners are doing with something that they stole from or what they copied from the automobile industry. So this is all about being creative and being innovative. Now, I ask you a question. What's the best gift that you think you've ever received? Think way back from when you were little till now. Sorry? Now, when I was young, my father used to travel a lot for work, and then when he comes back, he will ideally love to buy one thing or the other. Say, okay, yeah, I've gone to this place here, or whether it's Christmas period, here's a Christmas gift. So I got a number of all of these items at some point. But they all cost over 100 quid. Unfortunately, none of them interested me, because probably maybe one day max, a week max, I've played with the toys, dropped it somewhere else, I'm on to something else. But at a point in time, he started to find out what exactly matters to me. And then when he started to notice that I'm a lot more enthusiastic about music, and I like to hum some sounds that I hear back from the TV, then he knows, oh, Olu is quite interested about music. Can I get him something that he can start to use? So he bought me this harmonica, which cost just £4. And that was the best day of my life. £4 compared to over 100 quid. So when it comes to designing for people, it's about understanding what matters to them and empathizing with them, knowing what truly matters to them. It's not about how much it costs, but knowing fully well that you're solving a problem that matters a lot to them, and that's exactly what design thinking is all about. Understanding your customers and knowing their pain points. I'm going to be sharing some case studies, just like Bello said, where we've used this in my company to actually solve real customer problems. So it's about starting with the people and knowing what is desirable for them. What do they want? What matters to them? What will they pay for? And then going into the business sector, is this viable? Is this something that we can scale? Can we achieve a market fit for this piece of feature or product? And then a technical feasibility to say, do we have the right capabilities, technical knowledge in-house to build this? That's the only time that you can actually be innovating or doing anything that can be called innovative. Deborah said it's about the divergent and convergent process. That's exactly what it is about. When you diverge and you have multiple choices, that's where your creativity comes into play. You're not constrained or confined to one particular approach or one solution. You've got multiple ways of doing it. And then you look into all of your choices and then narrow down into what you feel is the best. Co-creating that with the customer. Because they will tell you what's best for them, not you assuming or using your opinion. How many of us are familiar with this double diamond framework? We use this in Lloyd's Banking Group, and what I found out so far is that a lot of people tend to jump straight into the right side, which is the solution space, forgetting about the left diamond, which is the problem space. So they keep solving the wrong problem. They keep automating the rubbish. And automated rubbish is still rubbish. Am I right? Yep. Do we agree? Mm-hmm. And automated rubbish is not solving any problem. It's not making their lives better. So we need to start from that left diamond and understand what their problem is before we can start to ideate and come up with ideas, evaluate the ideas, possible solutions, and then implement. That's design thinking and approach. Putting in all the 5 phases of design thinking, the empathize and the define phases are the left diamond, which is where we have to understand the customer and the users we are defining the designing for. And then in the solution space, that's where you have the ideation, your creativity comes into play. You use different methods like brainwriting, brainstorming, crazy eights, name it. There are a lot of ways by which you generate ideas. And then look into those ideas, options that you have, and then work with your customers with some prototyping or something that they can literally test or work with, and then give you feedback. And with that feedback, you start to implement a solution that's going to work for them and give you the business revenue or the benefits that you're looking for. It's all about achieving the business outcome, starting from the customer's perspective. So in Lloyd's, we have this model. We have the understand, incubate, build, then the test and learn. I'm very much really particular about this test and learn bit because what we've done is to have a model office sit somewhere in Edinburgh, and anytime we're trying to release a product feature into the market, what we do is we simply release it to a sample postcode. So for example, we did like a functionality to allow customers change their business address. What we did was to actually release it to the Birmingham Midlands postcode first to see how well that's going to do or how well that's going to perform in the market. And based on the feedback, we can start to say, okay, let's scale this let's do that, or let's take this feedback on before we scale it to the entire UK. We need to improve this, we need to do that, we need to do that. That's what we use the test and learn for, and we depend on them a lot to actually get all of those customer insight and the feedback to us as early as possible. We have that closed feedback loop implemented. And what we do as well is, when we're trying to build those features, we use an MVP approach. The word MVP has been bastardized a lot because people just think it's giving the customer something, even though the customer might not be able to use it, or they can't get any validated learning from. The customer, for example, is asking for a car. We all know what this skateboard approach is, a very common framework or example to use to describe the MVP. And you give them a tire. What are they going to use the tire for? And then your fourth iteration, that's when they get a car. But the actual approach to addressing this as a business analyst is to ask the underlying question: what problem are you trying to solve as a customer? And that's when they will tell you that they're trying to, for example, move from point A to point B. And they're asking you for a car. So rather than give them a car, there are guys just jumping into the solution. That's the right diamond, the solution space. Take a step back onto the left diamond. The problem is for them to move from A to B. How can you solve that as quickly as possible? Get them moving from A to B and get feedback to actually improve on what you're doing. That's MVP. So how about giving them a skateboard? That solves the problem. And then they can start to use it. And probably maybe the feedback that they give you is that change the color from red to blue. If that's the only thing that's wrong with it, all done, all well and good. You just saved yourself a lot of money building a car because that's all that they needed. And how about giving them something that's even a lot quicker than a skateboard? If they say the skateboard is good, but they fall off easily, turn that into a scooter. The skater is there, fine, doesn't break up properly. It's they can't have any no better controls when they're moving from in between buildings and all the stuff. Then give them a bicycle. Not necessarily a Van Move S bicycle that costs $2.5 grand, but something a lot cheaper. Give them a bicycle, and that might help solve their problem. If they're moving from one city to another, and the bicycle is not so far, it doesn't work as well as it should, power that up with some engine. And then you can get some validated learning as you go. And then probably they will tell you that, oh, they love the feeling of fresh air in their face as they're traveling from London to Manchester on their power bike. That is something that you can take even as you're building a car. So rather than give them this, because they love the feeling of fresh air in their face, you've getting to that point where you had that feedback from them. You can give them a convertible, and they are all excited. They are very happy. Problem solved. That's MVP in place. So we had that, and then we use this lean thinking approach, which is the lean startup method, where build a product, experiment using a test and learn approach with a model office, and then get those data out to see whether we are learning and where we are moving in the needle, whether moving the needle in the right direction, if we are achieving the right outcome, and if we need to tweak, if we need to pivot, if something is not working, we can always pivot and change. But it's important to always get your MVP out there as quickly as possible and tests with real customers. And like I said, if it's not working, it's not the end of the world if you have to change, tweak, enhance, continue if you need to, or pin the old idea. It's just about solving a customer's problem. This is the experiment, this is the actual case that happened in Lloyd's. So the scenario, the challenge was that there is this KYB, Know Your Business form, that every business banking customer needs to fill once every 3 months. Because we need to know whether they are still who they are, whether the business name has changed, or if they've told us that they deal in stationaries 3 months ago, They are now no longer delaying in weapons of mass destruction. So we need to know all of that, be that nothing has changed so far. Once every 3 months, if you don't do that, you get your business manager or your relationship manager knocking on your door, either by phone or anything. So they have to do this. But we found out that no one was really doing this, and it was a lot of problem for business managers getting them to fill in and send in the form and all this stuff. So we had to take a step back to say, what is the problem with the form? Why are our customers not using it? And speaking with about 20, because essentially qualitative research, once you speak to 10 people, you will get about 100 fruits. And we just extended that to 20. Speaking to them, we found out that the form had 4 different sections that you need to fill in. The challenge about it is that if you want to change just one part of the form to update your business details, you are constrained, you are mandated to fill all the 4 sections, even though nothing is changing. So if I'm just changing my business details, I have to still provide operating details, personal details, and business details, which is a lot of pain for the customers because they feel, this is not changing, why am I having to fill this all over and all over again? So they just abandon the form. Now what we did was, after understanding this problem, we did a little experiment to break this form down into 4 different areas. And the first iteration of that experiment was, these are the 4 different areas. Implement something like a click-through experiment to see which of these 4 will our customers be more interested in updating as often as possible. And the result of the experiment shows that the 2 highest was the business address and your details. These other 2 they don't necessarily change that much, but your address might change either because you've moved location or because someone you were using their address as your business address has now left the business and you want to change that. Or maybe your own personal details, like your telephone number, if you change mobile provider. So those are the 2 things that they were mostly interested in. In the first experiment, this still leads to the existing process, the existing journey. The top three leads to the existing KYB form. We now directed the business address to a public site where they can download a change of address form, a standalone PDF form to change the address, just to understand how many people will be interested in that. And given the number of hits, we just said, fine, that's the only 2 things that the customers are interested in. Understanding their problem, knowing what problem to solve, and using the experiment to build what is minimum for us to get maximum amount of validated learning. That's design thinking and lean thinking used together. And then we just re-engineered the homepage, provided them the entry points to the journey, and that just leads to those 2 that we know they are a lot more interested in. And that's the only thing that we are required to actually hold by law. Essentially because these phone numbers is going to be used for the strong customer authentication program, which is an EU directive, so we have to hold that. And then the business address, which is a high-risk journey, because with your business address, a fraudster, they hold on to that, they can redirect all your collaterals, like debit cards, checkbooks, statements, and everything, to the wrong address. So those 2 are very key, and that's what we concentrated on. And with these 2 journeys in place, we found out that the throughput just shot up. A lot of them were using it even without advertising. They were finding the journey and they were using it as expected. And that's what lean does, because it helps you to remove the waste in an existing journey and existing process and concentrate on what's going to give you the maximum amount of value for the customer and for your business. So, putting all of that together, design thinking is about starting with the customers, ensure that you understand what the problem is, create value for them, get your market risk reduced, then experiment using lean until you find a product fit and reduce the risk on your business. So you know that when you scale this, you start to get your ROIs, your benefits, your revenues, as the case may be, however you want to measure success. And then add Agile there to start to deliver that quickly and adaptable fashion. Once you know what your MVP is, Agile will help you to iterate and get that out quickly. Next, then feedback, Agile will help you to do that all of that quickly. So that's what those three thinking, these three approaches, how they work together and how we've used them in Lloyds Bank. And you will see that underlining all of those is the learning culture. Because at every point in time, as you're doing, you're learning. As you're doing, you're learning. And you're putting your learning into play. All the feedback that you get, everything that all the insights that come back from the customer, you put that in play to ensure that you're actually doing what's right for the customer. This learning can only be something that will be of use to you if you have an environment that encourages experimentation, which is what we've done. Like I explained earlier, we have the model office in Lloyds. You need to be in a position, in an environment that encourages experimentation, where there is no fear of failure. In Lloyds, that's my lab. That's a picture of my lab. We have a fail wall. Our director actually, and in all the labs as well, they have that. And what it does is that at the end of every quarter, it looks into their fail walls. The one that got the most failed ideas, the lab that's got the most failed ideas, they get rewarded. So it's not about how well you've performed. It's about how quickly have we failed and learned from those failures. Because it's when you can outlearn your competitors and outperform them. That's the only way you can thrive in this world that we find ourselves today. So we have that fail wall, and this is from IDEO. They ask for forgiveness, not permission. Go ahead and do what you have to do. Once you think it, go ahead and do it. If you fail now, you've only learned how not to do it. Thomas Edison did this 1,001 times. And he said, I've only found out 1,000 ways of not building an electric bulb. And today we celebrate him. If it's not for him, we'll all be sitting in darkness here, probably trying to use candles or whatever to see our faces. So it's about building that learning culture. This is what most people think success is like. But I tell you, this is what it is in real life. You have to go multiple ways in multiple directions before you actually find yourself heading in the right direction. And this calls for a lot of learning. So what that means is, as I close, learning has got to be a core DNA of every individual, every PA especially. And then in your teams as you work, you have to incorporate it, as well as your entire organization. Because it's only when you can outlearn your competitors that you can survive in this innovation race. That's the only way. You need to find a way whereby you can quickly learn and use the learning to actually do what is right for your customers. Because it's the fastest learner that wins the race. Thank you. Any question? Yes, please.
You talked about doing a release in Birmingham as a type of MVP. What were the previous MVPs you did before that? What was the small scale?
So we just decided to use a very small postcode in Birmingham to test how that product was going to perform.
So what was the test you did before that? What was smaller than that?
No, we didn't. We just like a small test. At the end of the day, it was just about 100 respondents out of millions of customers that we have in the UK. It was just like a small postcode. Yeah. Yes, please.
So, MVP. So in the army, we had this system called RAPS, and it came out, it was to record attendance in the Army Reserves. And it was awful. Absolutely awful. You can imagine what we call it. So that, by pushing out an MVP, and we didn't really know it was an MVP, it had a bad reputation straight away, and really had to work hard to recover them as we had iterations. So how do you kind of combat that? Is it communicating, hang on, bear with us, this is an MVP?
So, like I said, the reason why that's been bastardized is because a lot of people have forgotten about the V, which is the viability. That's why I tend not to use MVP. I coined out a term called minimum lovable product, because your customers must love what you're building. They must be willing to pay for it, and they must be in a position to give you that feedback. So if I find myself in that situation, I will take a step back to say, am I actually co-creating this with my customers? Because the only reason why an MVP will fail is because the business is not making the money that they expect to make from it. And the only way they can make money is if the customer out there are buying it. The business is in business because of the customer. If your customers go down today, you're out of business. So if I find myself whereby I can start to work with my customers to say, this is something that I've done so far, can you use it and tell me exactly what you think about it? It gets to a point whereby you can start to iterate and build incrementally to get to a point whereby they've got no choice, because they know this is something that we love, this is something that we've asked for, this is something that we want, and it's something that is useful for us. So we will do everything to actually pay for that and keep you in business. So I start from the customer's perspective, what's desirable for them, before looking into all of the business benefits, because essentially, if your customers are happy, your business benefits, all your revenues and the profits that you're looking at will tend to go up, and the cost will naturally go down. So rather than focusing on the financials and all the stuff, I focus on making my customers happy and keeping them loyal, retaining them, and giving them cost to actually introduce me or advertise me to their friends and families out there. So that's the approach that I use for MVP. Work with your customers, start from what is minimum enough for you to get validated learning from, and then use that learning to continually build iteratively and incrementally.
You don't get access to the end user, rather they just give you a load of SMEs that they will tell you.
Yeah, good. So we had that situation too in Lloyd's. What we've done in that approach is to use some agencies to actually recruit customers. Not necessarily Lloyd's bank customers, it could be any other bank or our competitors or something, to come in and then use some prototypes. So we pay them for coming in to come and help us validate our hypothesis, our experiments and all this stuff. So in as much as we try to go out on the streets and talk to people and they tell us, no, this is my lunch break, I don't have time for you. We use those agencies to actually do like their work is actually to get those customers out there and talk to them. And what we do is, as much as possible, give them a particular time, we'll come to you, this is how long it's going to take, we just want to talk to you about this and that, and they are well prepared, they know what we're coming for, and that's it. So that's how we work with them to ensure that we get our customer and market research done properly.
That's my goal. Where I'm coming from is the business managers, you tell them, oh, I really want to work with end users, and you tell you, no, we don't have time, we need to work with SMEs. How do you break that? How do you communicate that, no, you really need end users to be able to
Does anyone want to have an attempt or that question? Or should I just go for it? Okay. When your SMEs or your business managers are telling you that no, you should not speak to customers because there is no time, that you should work with SMEs, I push back and ask them, what time am I spending with the SMEs if there is no time? Is it a problem of there is no time to talk to anybody, or the time that we have should be used for SMEs and not customers? They are two different things. If you're saying there is time to talk to someone, I would rather talk to customers who will pay for this. Because anyone that's in the room, your SMEs, your senior stakeholders, they are all heroes. It's just opinions, except it's backed up by data or evidence. It's just an opinion of what they think the customer will use. They themselves are customers in their own right, so they can probably think of what the customer out there might do. But they are not in their shoes. They don't know where the shoe is pinning them. They don't know if that customer that you're designing for will decide to pick up the phone and call the bank rather than fill an online form. So why should I build an online form for customers that will rather pick up the phone? So why can't we find out what they will do rather than do something, even if it's an opinion, we still need to validate it with the customer. So we have to create the time. If I'm speaking with the SMEs, I still have to validate their opinion with the people that are going to be paying for this, because they are not the ones that will use it. And if it fails eventually, they're going to go into hiding and point fingers to you. One more.
No, sorry, I was just going
Oh, okay.
to add that, if anything, and following up on that, because they will fight back. So what I've tried to do in the past is just to highlight the risks, so that is logged, because if it's not properly done, this has been identified as a risk in the past. So here's your explanation for why that failure might happen. And then they might consider, oh, do we want to mitigate that, or do we just want to make an executive decision and roll with the risk? But at least we've raised that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.